Hello, everyone. Israel Luna here. Welcome to another episode of Don't Panic. Today is going to be a very interesting show because we are talking about being offended. Now, I'm not one to be offended, and I don't offend others either, so it might just be a boring show.
Tranny.
And when I thought of the subject matter, I thought, okay, let's see, who are the people that are never offensive? I'm going to get them on my show. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, starting right here on my left.
I'm Chaselyn Wade.
I'm Michael Moran.
And I'm the non-offensive and non-offended Richard Curtin.
This is going to be a very interesting show because, we are in the age of social media, which means everybody has an opinion. And not only do they have an opinion, because everyone's always had an opinion, but now you can post it somewhere and you have an audience to listen. Yeah. So I guess my first question to all of you is, how easily are you offended? Let's just say from a scale of 1 to 10. Just curious.
Honestly, just a scale?
Yeah, just from 1 to 10.
I'm really not offended. I would say 1 to 10, 10 being most offended, 1 not being offended. Usually like a -0. Hardly nothing offends me. There are specific things that offend me.
We're all going, no,
specific
girl.
things offend
We've seen your Facebook posts.
There are
I'm gonna pull
specific
something
things
up right
offend
now.
me. There's specific things offend me, but
Well, we'll talk about that.
ignorance offends me.
Right.
Okay,
We'll see.
ignorance offends me.
too.
We're going to talk about that. Yes.
Me too.
Michael, what about you?
I would say it depends on the day. It really does. There are days where nothing phases me. If I've had good rest and everything's
Good sex.
But then there are days where everything, well, not offends me, but just gets me riled up. You know what I mean?
offend myself sometimes.
I don't think of it as offense. I just think of it as disdain. Like when you smell a really bad scent in the air.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, oh God.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what? But if there was an average number, what would you say between 1 and 10? 10 being the most.
3.
3. Okay.
I
So
guess,
-1, 3. Richard.
Well, I'm going to go straight down the middle at 5 because I'm going to tell you I am appalled by most everything, and that's totally different than being offended.
It
because
is.
most of the time I'm really not offended.
Yeah.
I usually
like that
don't
word.
get offended,
I
but
agree.
I can be highly appalled by someone's belief in something or their conviction or what they do or say
Or their
how they're
disbelief.
dressed.
Now,
And-
for the people watching, what would be the differences between the two of appalled and offended?
I am appalled. Okay, how about we'll just talk climate change? I am appalled that someone can be so convicted by the idea of faith, and be so totally convicted by the fact that faith is real, and it can be proven by the Bible. But then be a skeptic on climate change because it is scientific.
That's appalling.
Right.
And it's appalling to me that you could not possibly have the same faith in scientists that you do a book that doesn't really have any basis of truth.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's a good point.
I guess
because-
being offended would be someone taking that we find appalling and using it against us or not using the information that they have.
Well,
that is offensive.
Well, that's an excellent segue to what I was going to say. One of the first things I want to do was I looked up the definition of offended. And the definition is to irritate, annoy, or anger, cause resentful displeasure in, ... That's pretty much it.
Wow, sounds like
I
my
think,
life.
as for me, I feel that to truly be offended, I would have to love that person or care about them greatly for them to have access to me in that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really, really great point because I'm really not very offended, but when I'm invested, when I am truly invested in someone and their opinion is alter or even against basically the core values of me, that's when I'm most offended.
Well, you know
when
what?
I'm invested in them.
Well, see, for me, if I have a scale of how offended I get, I would say about 3. Because for me, there are levels of being offended. When somebody says something, I'm not immediately offended. No. The first thing that I think of is, well, let me ask that person questions because I'm not sure what
wrong
they
with
mean.
you?
Exactly. If they say something
Why would you
that's
say that?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my first thing is, well, Richard, what did you mean when you said this? So
Right.
my first level, I guess, of being possibly offended is asking questions. Then you answer, and then if you answer, then I might have another question or two to make sure that you mean what you're saying, and then at that moment, I can choose whether I want to be
To
offended.
defend.
Yeah, yeah.
Well-
Or maybe then say, okay, well, then now I'm offended because I know what you mean by this and you did it in this certain way.
Right. Right.
But I find it just kind of disappointing and disheartening that somebody immediately is offended when they haven't even asked
Right,
questions yet,
right,
you know?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think too many people are just too offended by everything,
Uh-huh.
and I think the word offended now is being way too overused. A lot like the word awesome.
Right.
Or
What's really
amazing.
awesome these
Amazing.
days?
Have you ever watched
What's really
HGTV? Oh my God, this is awesome!
awesome.
Well, when
Oh
we
my God,
first-
it's got granite countertop. Awesome!
Well,
It's vaulted ceiling. Awesome!
when we first started the show, you were saying what offended you. So now I'm wondering, going down the line, what offends you? Just name 3 things that offends you.
Oh gosh,
offend you?
what offends me?
You said ignorance.
Ignorance, poor taste. That could be in fashion or words chosen.
Yeah.
What else? Offensive.
Well, as you're thinking about it,
Yeah.
Michael, what
I would
off the top of your head?
The thing that offends me most these days is a lack of tact and dignity and decorum in society. The fact that on a daily we can listen to the radio depending on what channel you can find. Even rappers from the 90s and early 2000s are saying how appalling it is to listen to rappers from today who talk about things that are very, very graphic in detail about intimacy with a woman and referring to women as bitches and hoes and and glorifying the ownership of cars and clothes. At the same time, it's eroding at our society. That offends me, that we are literally eating away at the soul of our society with the culture that's being marketed by every media outlet out there. People are getting offended by something someone says, but they're not even remotely offended by breasts and ass
Yeah.
hanging out of clothing in public
Yeah.
or on television. And on top of that, words that completely just are derogatory about women. It's just, to me, that is what people should be offended about, is that we're literally losing the soul of our society.
Gotcha. Okay,
Double
Richard.
standards offend me.
Got it. Double
That's my
standards.
third one.
Okay, your third one. Richard.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm offended by selfishness. I'm offended by someone's religion being rammed down my throat. And in the same token, the separation of church and state. And the third one is animal abuse.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. Got it. I would say the biggest one for me that offends me immediately is the mentality of it's okay to have inequality. We are born equal, and we stay equal until we die. And it just seems like a really
What
simple
a liberal
concept.
point of view you have.
Yeah, it seems like a simple concept, but
Socialist.
that's
Liberal.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's all that we've been fighting for. So just out of curiosity, was there anything
That was
especially
only one.
Oh, well, that's my biggest one.
You don't have two
Double
others?
standards. I'm offended.
Right. I really do like ignorance because,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
anyone can have an opinion, but please have it be an educated opinion.
Educated opinion.
Because I'm not going to have that type of conversation with you. And I guess the last one is, ignorance kind of like
Trumps it all.
showcases a lot of it.
They're just so
Can I just do
ignorant.
two?
They're all
I'll
so
think of the third
ignorant.
one.
Okay.
They're all
I'll think of a third one.
ignorant. As
Yeah.
Michael Jackson would say.
Right. Now let's, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
I
a
think
second
another
ago.
thing that offends me is the refusal upon some people's part that come to America to try to integrate some into our society and accept some of the things that are part of Western culture. If you're here, just try to have some integration. Try to know your neighbor. Don't wall yourself off to everyone around you. Try to have a little bit of, you're in a new world now. You chose to be here, so try. I mean, it's really offensive to me when you're in a country that I'm proud of, but you refuse to even pretend like you're American.
Well, to play
you know?
devil's advocate just for a second,
Yeah.
I know that I recently had a friend of mine visiting from Germany, and they have this thing that goes on, like when you graduate, they give you 6 months to travel the world and get cultured. We don't have that here in the United States, and we have this American attitude of everybody else is lame except for us. And when you go somewhere, first thing that generation does is, oh my God, this is so lame. I want to go back to America.
And Americans
This is so
are very
stupid.
notorious travelers for being offensive
Yeah.
overseas as well.
So
Yeah.
But I mean, but I get what
visiting
you're
and
saying.
living are two different
But
things.
I'll tell you, I
Yeah.
just traveled to Paris and London, and I'm going to tell you,
Bragger.
I tried really, I tried really hard to speak French, and did a really horrible job, and
you just slaughter it?
destroyed it. But I had
Je ne sais pas.
I had a really great time doing it. And in both countries, I found that people were very welcoming.
Yeah.
When I went to Belgium last summer,
Excuse me.
I found the same thing actually. They love Americans.
And,
Well,
and I do think that we do
Of
have
course,
a
that was before the
responsibility.
election, so I'm not so sure now. but-
Yeah, well, and that's another thing. I did get asked a lot about what's going on.
What is going on over there?
Well, speaking
Yeah.
of the election and everything, we have to take our first break. And when we
Wow.
come back, guys, I'm just going to say 2 words, and you will know that you need to stick around until after the break to continue watching. We're going to talk about Kathy Griffin. We'll be right back.
I knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Don't Panic. If you are just now joining us, I am going to have all of our guests introduce themselves.
I'm Chaselyn Wade.
I'm Michael Moran.
And I'm Susan Moriarty. Richard Curtin.
I went ahead and printed out different quotes about being offended, and this is from Stephen Fry. Quote, "It's now very common to hear people say, 'I'm rather offended by that,' as if that gives them certain rights. It's no more than a whine. It has no meaning, it has no purpose, it has no reason to be respected as a phrase. I'm offended by that. Well, so fucking what?"
Yay!
I like that.
I love Stephen Fry.
Yeah, he's really great. Now, before we cut to break, I had sort of teased that we should talk about Kathy Griffin, because it seems like everyone is talking about what she did, which, for those of you who don't know, Richard, tell them what she did.
Well, she had a press conference today.
Well, before that, I mean, the beheading it's a mask, right?
Yeah.
It was a mask.
Basically, she was photographed by a pretty renowned photographer holding the head of Donald Trump. That was a mask that was covered in ketchup. And
So it looked like a bloody, severed head, decapitated head.
And my biggest criticism of it is, to me, it looked like she was on the street and she picked it up and was going, ew, rather than she actually did it, because she had no blood on her.
Right.
If she was completely blood splattered, I think it would have been a piece of work, a piece of art. And
So just out of curiosity from all of you, what was your first reaction when you saw the picture?
I knew that heads were going to roll.
Wah, wah.
No, I thought awesome, funny, you know.
Okay.
But the only thing that it did tinge in the back of my mind was it was very reminiscent of ISIS, and so that kind of was a little for me.
Okay.
Honestly.
I personally thought to myself, what will this actually accomplish other than bringing Kathy Griffin to the forefront of the daily media talk? And it's done that. She's in the news cycle now. So, I've seen a lot of things, in my studies with art. There was the Piss Christ that pissed off a lot of people, and an artist emerged a crucifix into urine. I mean, the artists are doing things all the time to try and pop themselves to the foreground. And a lot of it is just because in America, we've monetized attention. The more eyeballs on you.
Madonna has made a career out of it.
Exactly. So to me, it's just more of the same. Okay. And now here we are.
Still talking about her.
And that's,
Richard, what about you? What was your first reaction to it?
why isn't she covered in blood?
Got it. Okay.
And I mean, I looked at it as an art project.
Right.
And in that art project, I think it was failure, because to me, it looked like Kathy Griffin, completely clean, completely free of blood, was holding the head of Trump. And her face wasn't, she wasn't agitated, she wasn't aggravated.
Why is that so offensive? Okay, is it because of the blood? Is it because it's the president?
Well, this is really interesting
The
because
president of the United States' head was cut off, severed.
So?
I know.
And they
So,
did.
I mean,
that
that's
was
a person, that's a human being, regardless of what his position is.
that was a lot of
in the world.
people's
there's
reaction
been-
was, so what?
In the
Sinead
after-
O'Connor took a picture of the Pope and ripped it in half on the SNL. People were offended by that.
Sure.
There's been plenty of presidents past who have been hung in effigy. Their
Lynched for 8
image
years.
has been,
Yeah.
there's been many
Nobody
things
was
like that. But the
offended
thing is
by
that
I
Kathy,
think there were.
But
I mean,
Kathy
quite a
is
bit.
a person with a public platform, so whatever she does, what some guy in Alabama does in his backyard to a thing of Obama or whatever, it may get some coverage. But Kathy, of course, we've gotten a lot of coverage out
Right.
of this.
Well,
right?
she's two things. She's a comedian, and then she also, kind of does the funny, like, offensive. She's like the offend comic or whatever they call it.
She's all about the D-list.
Yeah, and so what I think happened is she did something that was probably going to catch attention, and she knew that, but it was going to be laughed off and go, wow, she's pushed the limits yet again, and I think it backfired. And then that's when I think she somebody probably got in contact with her and said, you need to apologize, and she did. And I think it also meant something when she didn't have any makeup on. She kind of threw in this really terrible wig.
Can I just say, the only thing I think is funny is that if you, it's almost like a Desperate Housewife cutting off a head where when you say there's no blood on her, like I can see like a tutorial with some pristine girl, like, now this is the kind of blade I like to use, and there's like no blood, and it was.
Do you think that her apologizing made it worse for her?
Well, see, this is interesting.
Think so.
I do too.
I think so. I think
apologizing?
I think her apologizing gave everyone the right to attack her. If she would have said, fuck you, I meant it. This is why I meant it. I feel like that I cut his head off the same way he's cutting the head off of all the children's funds for this and all the rights for food for this. And he's cutting the head off of this, funding for different
But
things.
see, that's a good point.
For Planned Parenthood, for whatever she wanted to use.
What
that
was her
she could've said.
message with doing it? Did
That's
she
the
ever
thing.
say?
She should have said that what her message was. Instead
I
of saying,
don't
"I'm
think the
sorry."
message is clear. And I absolutely agree with you. I think one of the things that you have to do as an artist is your work has to stand on its own. And when it doesn't, you have to be able to defend it.
Yeah.
And maybe even argue for it. And she never did.
Right.
He
and
cut the head
even
off
to
of
now,
democracy.
right?
And
Right,
also-
right.
Whatever it was.
But up until now, she has not said
But
what
she-
the message was, right?
Nor has the artist. And TMZ interviewed him today, and he was walking, getting groceries or whatever, and he was like, "I don't take it back. It's my art."
Well, he's just the photographer.
Yeah,
I mean-
he's like, "It's my art, and I have to
I
be able
think
to stand by
I
my
think they
by
were
my work."
collaborators.
Well, Michael, you were about to
just-
say something.
You know, I'm remembering my great grandmother. She was by marriage, actually. The woman never used a vulgarity. Never. And she would do this thing where she'd go like that, and you knew you better get the hell out of the house. I mean, her words had more impact because she was so reserved with, and my point being is that, if you really want to attack the problems and the issues that are out there, especially if you're not a Trumpster, I don't believe that this was the way to do it. I don't think this does anything but stoke the fires. There's already enough anger out there. There's already enough frustration on both sides. I don't think this really did anything. All it did was put Kathy Griffin in the news cycle.
Right.
It just, I don't think it helped.
I don't know.
Do you think
I
that
think it hurt her quite a
It
bit.
hurt
Do
her.
you
Yes, it did
think
hurt her.
That visual was more offensive than verbal when some of the comedians late night say pretty horrible things and have gotten in trouble in some
Yeah.
people's opinions.
Well,
horrible things.
it's a case
Is
by
it a
case
visual thing.
Well, it's a case by case basis because I think every joke either like flies or it bombs. And Richard, you would know this more being a comedian as well. But see, but for me, when she apologized, it fixed it for me because I thought, how many people don't apologize,
Right.
like the commander in chief? And she took responsibility. And not only did she say, "I'm sorry, I sincerely apologize," she said, "I beg for your forgiveness. I am so sorry." And she kept repeating it. And so for me, it fixed it.
And the image was removed.
Right.
And she did remove it. However, if it had not been so unanimously agreed upon that she crossed the line, would she have apologized? No, of course not.
No, I don't.
But
I mean, even if it was half
But
and
who
half,
unanimously agreed?
nobody.
That's what I'm saying. Who unanimously
I think
agreed?
I might be the only one that's really terribly and not at all offended by it.
I wasn't offended by it either, but I was like, I was wondering what she was trying to say. And I never got that.
Let's say instead of cutting his head off and holding up, it was a mannequin of him, and she's punching him in the face, and he's got a black eye. Would that be just as offensive?
I'm more
She's
offended.
fighting back.
No.
I mean,
It's
like,
violent behavior.
I'm more offended by the fact that instead of talking about the people of Venezuela who are being starved to death by their government, instead of talking about the people in the Philippines who are being murdered 51 in 35 days, instead of talking about issues like that, we're trapped in in American culture. It's things like this that get all the attention, and whether it's offensive or not, my question is, who the fuck cares? Because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we got a world.
Well,
full of
honestly, as
problems.
Americans, God
know?
only loves Americans. According to a lot of
Right,
Christian believers, that's how they see it.
I said
God
the
loves
same
Americans
thing
more.
on Facebook. I use different things, you
Yeah.
know, like the men who are being rounded up in Chechnya.
Yes,
And really the separation of church
Right,
and
those are
state,
real
and the fact
issues.
that they're
Yeah.
really kind of blending. Our vice president really does not believe in the Supreme Court ruling for marriage to be for all people.
Right.
And so I think we have greater issues that
Right.
affect not just one person, but a whole group and a society of people, not only here,
Deflect.
but in Europe and in Russia and in Venezuela and Philippines. We have greater issues to be worried about an art project that really, I think, overall was failure.
Yeah.
But
It's
honestly,
called deflection.
well, yeah, and
Exactly.
and honestly, a lot of this has to do with media. You got to love and hate them at the same time, because if it's not an interesting story, they are not going to air it. If
Right.
that was more interesting, if there was a celebrity, if there was
Absolutely.
Angelina Jolie involved
Right.
in all of this stuff going on in Venezuela, then they would cover it. But until then, they're
Absolutely.
going to say no one's going to watch, no one cares, and that's money. That's what it comes down to.
Well, because the entire media cycle is governed by money and advertisers, and so they're constantly, fear mongering is at its all-time high. While they've got the sheep running in circles, which is us, right? So everyone's like jumping from MSNBC to Fox to whatever to try to figure out whose side they're on. Back in my grandfather's day, news was written in newspapers. It was hard fact news, and journalists had to write, rewrite, and triple write their articles before they'd be approved by the editor, because it had to be factually based. It can't be opinion.
and then the National Enquirer came to be.
Exactly.
Which were they
Yeah.
were sort of like the parody, or almost like the anti
fake news.
Yeah, that's what started the fake news.
Right. And now what we have is a war over who gets to tell us now what truth is, right?
Right.
So now whose
Well,
brand of the
PBS
truth
can't because they're
is truth?
defunded.
One good one. Look at her being all.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's quick today.
Yeah.
So there's really a war going on right now between higher powers over who gets to brand what's truth.
Exactly. And what I
know?
say to that is watch lots of news. Watch different types of news.
Yeah.
Watch them
I
all.
can't stand Fox, but I watch it.
Exactly, just to know what that side is thinking.
Yeah,
Guys,
of
we have to
course.
take another break. And when we come back, guys, we are going to talk about how do you handle a post on Facebook when it might or could offend you, or it offends you. How should you handle it? We'll be right back. Sincerely. Oh, hi, everybody. Welcome back to Don't Panic. I am going to start off this segment with yet another quote about being offended. This one's one of my favorites. It's from Dolly Parton.
I love her.
She says, "If I have offended anybody by my language, all I can say is tough titty." I thought that was I thought that was
The
really
big
cute.
fat kitty.
Yes. Now, my next question to all of you is Facebook. Facebook is the biggest, social media outlet that we have, especially to express yourself, which of course, in turn, you can start a thread by people responding to whatever you post, et cetera, and then it just goes from there. And that's where the being offended begins. Chaselyn, I know that you had an incident that had happened one time because you had posted it. Kind of tell us, like, thumbnail sketch of what happened and then what
quick.
happened.
So I go in, first of all, I like to use my Facebook for educational purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I like to use it for like a personal diary or just
right, like
just
a journaling.
just a journal, electronic journal,
right,
and food porn, what have you.
Yes.
Okay. So I typically don't make posts that are extremely personal. When I do, it's because I'm either really sad about something that's happened, a death, etc., or I'm really fucking pissed off. And I went
in this case.
I was really fucking pissed off. I went into this restaurant on the Strip. I don't want to use names because they've been very kind. If you're interested, you can see it on my Facebook.
Okay. I was about to call them out, but since they've been kind.
Well, you can. Go ahead.
JR's Bar and Grill?
Yeah. So I go into this. It is an important part of the story.
I love Stu Hyman.
So I go into this
I
gay
love
establishment with a couple of gay friends of mine, and it's middle of the day, and I'm having lunch, and I sit down to order our lunch, and the bartender behind the bar proceeds to inform me that he remembers me from back before. And I remember when your hair was short. And what is your real name?
Ooh.
And I remember you. What do you remember me? I remember you from back. Well, motherfucker, I'm trying to order a cheeseburger.
But at the same time, weren't you also like somebody was there, like kind of semi-flirting with you?
There was a gentleman that came across the bar. It was a gay bar, so he may have been gay, may have been straight, may have been bisexual, trisexual. He may have been trans himself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I don't need a bartender behind the bar spilling my tea or telling me how he remembers me or how I should be remembered.
Right, or quote cock blocking you.
Yeah,
in
or
the process,
what
right?
have you? Because I'm presenting myself to you as this right now. What you remember is what you remember.
Right. So then that caused you
And
to
I
post
don't
it
even
on
fucking
Facebook.
know you.
So then you went to Facebook, and
I
that's
went
how
to
I saw it.
I went to Facebook and I read, bitch. I
Yes,
read,
beautiful.
and I got 3,000 plus views and,
And
about 72 shares. And
And let me let everybody know that it wasn't a text post. It was a video that you
it was
took.
a video.
Yeah.
Yes, and
That's
you
how
explained the story.
Girl, you can see the veins popping out in my neck and in my forehead. I got hot. I was like, woo, child.
Now,
I'm
did
so
y'all
mad
see it?
today.
Did y'all see the post?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And
what?
And I think the response that I got was so high and extreme because I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use social media
Like
for
my grandmother I was talking about. It has more impact.
I just don't use social media for that because I don't want to hear about your problems. I don't want to share my problems with the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to go on there and say, oh, woe is me, I'm having a poor day, or wow, I just took a big dump.
So
Nobody cares.
Let me ask you this: when you posted it, what did you hope to accomplish?
I hoped to accomplish educating people that that's not how you treat someone that's a transgender individual,
Okay.
especially and how offended I was that it was in a gay bar. And what happened was I left from the gay bar and went to a straight bar on Henderson Avenue, okay? Sat down, had a lovely meal, not a fucking problem, no questions were asked, no eyebrows were raised, nothing. And that's what that offended me. That I'm in a gay establishment, and every time, and if I'm ever if I'm ever offended or asked questions or disrespected about being transgender, it's by typically a gay man.
Yeah.
And it's really
But do remember that's the environment you're in. And I don't want to downsize or downplay your
Right.
your fears or even
Or the post.
or
Right.
any of your valid points. One thing that happened to me was I was in the Turtle Creek Corral and someone came in with a yearbook and said, "Hey, I'm going to show you something." And it was all really being coy and made it a point to bring in his yearbook that had Maya Douglas in it when they graduated from high school.
yeah.
And it was a picture of Maya from high school.
Yeah.
And
So she wasn't Maya yet.
And I said, "Can I have that book? Because I'm going to burn it." And he was like, what? I was like, that's so rude.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is really, I think what happened to you was people are just fucking rude.
Yeah, he was
And
rude.
so what?
was
So
rude.
what? Who I
And I
used to
think-
be even 10 years ago. or
Right.
My haircut is different.
I wanted
Yeah.
to say, and you know what I told him? He said, "Do you remember who I am?" I said, "I remember who you are. Just as rude fucking then as you are now." Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
the reason
I remember you being skinnier
hold
with
on.
more hair too.
Now the
bitch.
reason I brought this up was not to rehash that incident.
And now I'm offended
What I'm-
and
Now
upset.
get mad, girl.
What, the reason I bring it up is for the three of us. Let's just say we see this post, and whether you agree or disagree, or you want to chime in, what do you do? Do you, if you, let's just say you agree with it, and you know, how do you start handling this post? Do you skip over it? Do you comment? What do you say?
I think that it depends on the magnitude of the post and how much it resonates with you and how much you care about what they're saying. That if it's a level 10 on magnitude and how much it resonates, you share it. You like it and you share it. But I think if it's something that resonates with you, but it's not something that you necessarily feel the need to let
Take
everyone,
on.
then you just like it or love it or whatever.
Well, it's interesting
know.
you say that, because there's another quote, talking about how it affects you because of something personal. It says, "The feeling of being offended is a warning indicator that is showing you where to look within yourself for unresolved issues."
I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I'd like to say to Chase and
Is that she's a
and
whore?
even Crystal or Maya is I know personally that you have no shame
No.
about who you were.
No.
And I know Crystal has no shame. I know that Maya has no shame. It's not shameful
No.
to what you were.
No, not
And
at all.
so
It's that these
I
people think they have
But
something on you.
there's
Some of
nothing
these
wrong with
people
having
are-
a seat in a chair, but if someone pulls a chair out from underneath of you and you're not expecting it, it's going to piss you off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and at some point, I think sometimes people.
And if it hadn't happened in a straight bar, I probably wouldn't have been so offended.
Because you felt like this is
Because
family.
this is a safe
because
place
it's
for
more
me.
safe environment for
this
you?
is an environment where people should know better. He's worked in the gay bars for 15 years.
Well, not
I'm sure
only
I'm not
that-
the first transgender person he's seen it transition and evolve.
Yeah, you were involved in the process.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you should be holding my hand.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
should be congratulating me on
And
how
respecting
Great
me.
I look.
Exactly.
Now, playing devil's advocate, let's just say this person had good intentions. This person maybe, possibly, saw you and was like, I want for Chaselyn to feel that I have this special closeness to her because I've known her for so long, and I have this little wink, wink. I know the history. You should like me now because you're like, oh,
Then
you've
all you
known me
say
for so
is,
long.
honey, I'm so proud of you and you look so great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
That's all you
yeah.
have to
Maybe
say.
they just didn't know. Maybe
When
they were
you-
just, again, ignorant.
Ignorant.
How about can I buy the burger you're
Yeah.
wanting to
Right?
purchase?
Well, you have to
Yeah.
remember too
Good
that
point.
as we unpack this this big topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are a trailblazer in the world for what it is to be a transsexual woman,
Mm-hmm.
because in 100 years from now, who knows what that's going to look like or be, right?
Right.
Technology has only recently advanced to the point where they're able to match your outsides with your insides, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, right? And so you really are a novelty of huge magnitude. People are fascinated with this now.
Yes.
And so no one knows quite how to talk about it yet. The education still has to continue on, which that video, I think, definitely taught people that you can't talk a certain way.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of
I
bumps
mean,
on the
I
road.
completely agree and understand. It's
You
just
know.
I don't understand why it's like that in the gay community.
Well,
Yeah.
because it's in the forefront. And I'm gonna go out on a limb as well and tell you that this person probably has absolutely no malice in his heart toward you,
Right.
and
Right.
probably most likely is extremely supportive of your transition,
Right.
and probably more supportive than most of the periphery people, because he's seen it, he's watched it, and at some point he's a little more understanding of it because he is in the
Right.
environment.
Yeah.
And so
This person probably just was not very smart when it came to thinking it through when they
Right.
saw
Well,
you.
they
Yeah.
probably, to be honest, I think
They probably didn't
sometimes
think-
I think gay men, gay men do this a lot. And I think it's because in the gay environment, if you were in a straight bar and a gay man was there with you, I think they would probably temper themselves more. But they feel that in the environment of that gay bar, that anything is on the
a free-for-all.
table
Right.
because we're all,
Well, this is
Right.
a great example. Let's just say, we were at some bar. We were at Sue Ellen's or something, and you're
Okay.
talking to somebody, and just out of force of habit, because I know you so well, I'm like, "Hey, tranny," when I
Yeah.
see you.
Right.
Well, at that moment, I meant it as a joke,
I'd
and
be
it
like,
doesn't
"What's up,
mean
fag?"
anything. But what if at that point you're flirting with someone,
Right.
and there's something going on that I'm not aware of because I'm coming in as Israel, who knows Chaselin, has
Right.
known Chaselin for a long time.
Right.
I didn't know that. I should have known.
Right.
So,
And
Well,
that goes
if it
back to the
happened at
heart
Sue
in your
Ellen's, It
mouth.
wouldn't be so
Yeah.
bad, but if it were at, let's say, some place downtown,
Rabbit.
you
Yeah.
know, Fat Rabbit or something like that, then I might be like, Israel, are you fucking kidding me?
then I'd be like, oh, and then I see the guy, and I'm like, oh, I should
sorry,
not.
yeah.
I should. step
hello,
away.
sir.
Someone told me that I absolutely had to stop using the word tranny, and I said, when the word I use has malice,
Yeah.
then yes, absolutely, I should
Right.
stop using it.
That's actually
Right.
a very good point. Malice is at the center of it because insult comedians, and I know one here in Dallas that's awesome at it, Jenny P. She's a great insult comedian in her drag
She
brunch
is.
show. And I've watched insult comedians my whole life. I just love them. I love watching people rip on people. I love roasts. But it's love that's inside the
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
It comes
really
from a
wrapped
place
in
of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well, and I hope with this conversation, it makes you feel slightly better that maybe this person was just dumb.
Oh,
Instead of,
I
like,
already
mean-spirited?
realized and acknowledged that.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
good.
no.
Well, there's a difference between being ignorant of something and being stupid. Ignorance is that you just didn't know. Stupidity is that you should know better, or you've been taught, or
Right.
you've already gone through,
Right.
and then you continue.
Lord, if
Or
only
you do know and you choose to be ignorant.
That's
Right.
the
Exactly.
point.
If only
That's
people had
exactly
that,
right.
If only
yes.
people had that filter in their head, and they don't. And we have to
Yeah.
take another break, guys. But before we go to break, I want to do one more quote. One of them is, let's see, being offended is a part of being in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who said that? Courtney Love.
Oh, she's
Yeah, guys, we are going to take another break, and when we come back, a good segue because of what happened with Chaselin is there hope on social media to change people's minds, or are we just yelling at each other? Is there hope? We will be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Don't Panic. I am Israel Luna, and if you are just now joining us, we are offended that you are just now joining us. How dare you miss any part of the show? I'm going to have all of my people that are easily offended introduce themselves.
I'm Chaselyn Wade, and I'm easily offended.
I'm Michael Moran.
I'm not offended at all.
I went
I'm
from
Richard
negative
Curtin.
offense to
To
completely easily offended.
Completely offended. You know, in the last segment, we were talking to Chaselyn about an incident that happened to her, and she posted it on Facebook, and then everything that happened after that, and then how you just kind of realized that, you know, I mean, you although you had full right to be as offended as you were, you've sort of thought
I tried to use it as an educational type thing
exactly.
as well.
So that is a great segue to this last part of the show, which is, you know, when you respond to someone who writes a hateful post or something about Trump or the administration, you know, praising them, and you decide to comment, is there hope? Do you feel that your comment could possibly change their mind, or what's going on? Is there hope?
Yeah, go ahead.
I try not to make personal political statements. I typically try to only present the facts, and then you can choose on your own.
Well,
what you think.
One thing I've learned in a lot of the research that I've done recently is that it really behooves the market itself in America, our capitalistic market, is it really helps them out that when we're divided. Because if there's 2 or 3 sides to something that vehemently oppose one another, then they know where to put their money. It really is, all of this is really orchestrated at such a high level, and we really are sheep in the midst of it. We have to remember that when we're on social media that no, there is no hope that you're going to change someone else's mind because you disagree with them in a comment on your video. Most likely, the only way you're going to ever change someone's opinion is in getting to know them and having them know you, where their opinion is suddenly they're confronted with the fact that suddenly I really like this person and they're gay, and I've never known a gay person. That's how opinions change. They don't change on a screen with a bunch of comments.
Well, so for example, like
You know?
if somebody were to post on Facebook talking about inequality and how gays don't deserve to get married, or yes, they should not adopt, should you comment? Do you think by commenting,
Well,
what are you trying to say? Should you?
I think you should, but I think that instead of firing vitriol back in the other direction, which really does nothing but stir the bonfire, the thing that you should do is probably reach out to them in a way, you know, that makes them feel maybe a little bit like, damn, I
just fucking block them.
I think it's good to good to reach out as a fellow human being and say, you know, you're better than this. And I'm really disappointed because from my perspective, A, B, C, and D. And I really hope that you come to understand
and
that.
then they respond with,
you know,
the Bible says this, though.
And then
That's why I block them.
And that's where you have to choose your battles.
I typically don't know them anyways.
Yeah.
And Richard, I know you have plenty
choose
to
your
say because
battles.
you're being very quiet.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, when people post, and I look at their, if I'm at all invested, it's usually because I know them. If they and again,
that's true.
I'm probably not going to get involved because I am probably posting something that is an alternative to what they're posting.
Right.
And so at some point, by me getting involved in their post, I am opening myself to allowing them to get involved in mine.
True. Yeah.
And I really don't want them to.
Yeah.
You can post whatever you want because it's your Facebook.
It's your Facebook.
The inherent
That's why
problem.
I just block them.
One of the inherent problems,
Exactly.
though.
And that's what you can do on your Facebook.
Yep.
And on my Facebook, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if you don't want to do it, block me.
Exactly. But the thing that is happening along with that is the resignation is setting in amongst so many people now, because from behind a screen we can become these armchair warriors.
Absolutely.
So there's all this resignation and people are just not connecting anymore.
Well, see, now the positive part of this for me, I always try to see the positive in everything, is Facebook is a lie detector. Facebook is how you can see how people really are. I think it's the most amazing thing that's happened, because now you know when somebody rants something and it's against you, now you know that about that person.
Yeah.
That person's being completely honest.
I think one of the things that Facebook and what our climate has done, and the thing that I was so surprised by is I would see posts from people that I had no idea felt the way that they felt about just, I don't know, blacks or Hispanics or immigration. And in this environment of validity and a support for anti anything, we had a lot of people who I think surprised me personally. And when I was so surprised by what they were saying and doing on their Facebook, it really opened my eyes to where their heart is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when the moment somebody posts something, even though when you say, well, but it's my wall, I can post whatever you want. Absolutely. The moment you make it public on your wall, you are open to criticism from other people, and then you can't get mad at them for responding because you are putting it out there for everyone to comment on.
We're all now public figures in a very different, in a microcosm, right? Because no one knew before what it was like to be a celebrity, but on a smaller scale, we're all our own little celebrities on our page, and now you're open to public scrutiny because you're publicizing everything you're thinking and feeling.
And you think,
Absolutely.
you think that your opinion matters.
Well, in your opinion, it does.
It does.
To maybe 3 people.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
To yourself.
or to anyone.
Or to yourself.
One of the things that happened to me personally was someone who is not gay but is a pretty big figure in the gay community posted, I really have never cared that you're gay. I just don't want it rubbed in my face. And I'm
Get your head out of my crotch,
astounded.
then.
I am astounded by that.
Good comeback.
I am astounded. I was
But now
astounded
you
by
know
it.
Well-
that they feel that way.
Absolutely.
Now, guys, let me go ahead before we go because we have to go here in a second. But and then we're gonna cut to break and come right back. But there's a guy. I subscribe to his channel on YouTube. His name, the channel's name is Awaken with JP, and it's under his segment Ultra Spiritual Life. And then he has all episodes. Well, in episode 52, he talks about being offended. And he says that there are 3 steps to being offended. Now, this is him pretending like everything offends him. And these are the 3 steps. 1, listen to what someone says and then selflessly make it about you by taking it personally, even if it has nothing to do with you. That's step 1. Step 2 is create a large amount of tension around your body, your stomach, your chest, your face. Step 3, project outrage onto the other person. This will make it seem like you're getting rid of the tension inside your body, but it's actually driving it down deeper inside you. And because it stays there, it'll make it easy for you to be offended next time.
I like that, actually.
Isn't that great?
I do like that.
It says so much because this person it's their own personal feeling, like the quote that I mentioned earlier, which I think is a really great thing. What comedy can do, it can really throw out these really great messages. Guys, we have to take our last break. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to close out the show so you can find out how to get in touch with all of these wonderful people. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Don't Panic. I'm Israel Luna. I'm going to have everyone talk about how you can get a hold of them or social media. How can people get a hold of you? We have 2 minutes. I'm going to turn it around so y'all know the time right there.
I'm actually pretty boring. Facebook, Instagram, and
The bathroom wall.
yeah, and the bathroom wall. I don't really do Snapchat. I kind of hate it, actually.
I did too.
It's just ridiculous, but
It's offensive, right?
Just chase. Yeah, it's offensive. Chase the Wade. That's
Okay.
easy.
Got it.
Well,
One N, by the way, in Chaseland.
I am on Instagram as Makeover Mike because I am a professional makeup artist, and I do have some things coming up in the next month. I'm working with Camera Ready Cosmetics and doing a class on eyes, actually, and there will be more posted on my Facebook page. You can find me on Facebook, Michael Tierney, Tierny, Moran, Moran. And then Makeover Mike is my Instagram. My email is makeovermike@gmail.com. And I also have another show that'll be coming up in the fall that's going to be called Getting Mic'd Up, where I have basically makeup chair confessionals.
Ooh, mic'd up.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's
so-
good.
Yeah.
As I have for the past 17 years as a makeup artist, shared in the stories and lives of women that have sat with me. I'd like to do that, but on camera, and share those stories with you because I've found some really remarkable
And a few
women
men.
and men. Yes, and we're gonna have men too. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I just look forward to it. And then there's another show that I'm working on that I can't really talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, well, thanks
Hurry
a
up.
lot for giving everybody else a shot.
Sorry.
Bitch.
Yeah, I know, right?
At Edna Jean Robbins, at Edna Jean Dallas, at Twitter and Instagram. Richard D. Curtin and Edna Jean Robinson on Facebook. And you can find me in local theaters for The Sordid Wedding and Hurricane Bianca on Netflix.
And you also have something else coming up. I'll give you a few seconds.
In the fall, I'm going back to school to get my master's degree, and I'm applying for a teacher's assistant job in video as well as beginning painting
Wow.
at
listen
Sol
to
Ross
that.
University in Alpine, Texas.
Nice. Well, guys, and I am Israel Luna. This is Don't Panic with Israel Luna. We air live outside of the space station located inside Spayse Studios. You can go to spacestudios.com, SPAYSE. We air every Friday at 3 o'clock. And if you would like your own show, you can email us at SPAYSE, spacestudios@gmail.com. We will see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye. Thanks to my guests.
Yay, bye.
Bye. We're offended.
You have offensive bitches.